Well, we are pleased to welcome into our studio Dan Rayfield, Democratic candidate for Attorney General. Thanks for coming in, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You've worked in the state legislature. Of course, you were Speaker of the House at one point. Why leave the state legislature to run for Attorney General?
Yeah, I really believe that the Attorney General's office, with the right leadership, the leadership that I want to bring to this office, can be an indispensable partner in solving our community's greatest challenges, from housing and homelessness all the way over to substance abuse crisis and keeping our communities safe. And so it was like a natural transition to move from the legislature in a place where truly, one of my big philosophies was how do you solve community's greatest challenges by bringing people together, to then move into this role. And I just got excited about it, and we've been having fun ever since.
Obviously, being a part of the state legislature, you've been working on what were certain failures of Measure 110. And you helped implement the new law, HB 4002. How do you see this law implemented, and is there a role for the Attorney General to address the substance abuse crisis?
Yeah, and so what we ended up doing earlier this year in the Speaker's office is we brought Republicans and Democrats together, along with law enforcement as well as district attorneys, to find a different path to the substance abuse crisis. And I think I always like to remember that we've all had somebody in our lives that has suffered from substance abuse, whether it's a friend, a family member, in that dynamic, and really looking at the root cause about how you treat the treatment first. And so what we passed in the legislature was a treatment first approach, but also gave law enforcement tools to actually confiscate hard drugs and go after and combat drug delivery. So in the Attorney General space, when you think about keeping communities safe, I want to use the office to really target drug delivery cartels in that space, but at the same time partner on the treatment side of this world, knowing that we really need to focus on a treatment first aspect. There's going to be reports coming back to the legislature, because each county is trying different things on this treatment first approach for folks that are suffering from substance abuse. We want to look at what are the best practices, use that data so that way we can better help folks down the road.
I want to follow up on, addressing maybe the cartels and what is ultimately, hey, we're on I-5, and so that goes right down basically to the border. We hear so much about addressing the border on a federal level. We are in election season, and obviously that's a big topic of the federal races. At the state level, how can we address the immigration? We're not a border state, but we're impacted by what's happening at the border.
Yeah, and in the Department of Justice, you're really going to focus on the elements that are in that, what I said earlier, that bucket of keeping communities safe. And so that is going to be the drug delivery, internet crimes against children, human trafficking. So in the last legislative session, we added additional attorneys and investigators to be able to go after the drug delivery in our community. So I'm looking forward to getting into the office, using those resources, but it's really important that you're partnering with local law enforcement, district attorneys, to tackle that, because it's not just the Attorney General's office. Most of the prosecution investigation is done at the local level.
You mentioned housing. Homelessness obviously continues to be a concern of people in Oregon, and particularly in this area as well, the South Willamette Valley. How can the Attorney General address that crisis?
Sometimes I'll talk about the Attorney General's office role in terms of process improvement and making state government more efficient. One of the things in the legislative space where we passed, when I was Speaker, we passed one of those significant housing reform packages the state has seen. And we wanted to get money into communities, but there have been delays getting money into community. The Attorney General's office is a part of that chain of getting money into the communities. I think we can do that more efficiently, and I'd like to start putting the pressure on to do that and improve our systems in that dynamic.
You've been a big proponent of reproductive rights and access to abortion. It is, of course, legal in Oregon, and state's considered one of the most in terms of accessibility for women's health care. How will you defend it if it's threatened at the federal level?
Yeah, and what ends up happening, what does that really look like? What it could happen right now, and the biggest threat, is a national abortion ban. And you have a national law that is in conflict with Oregon laws. It would be my responsibility as Attorney General to stand up for abortion rights, to fight the implementation of a national abortion ban over the laws currently existing in Oregon. And what that looks like is you would have Republicans, attorneys general in one camp, really advocating that that abortion ban should apply to all 50 states. You'll have Democratic attorneys general in the other camp, which is where I would be making sure that our laws in Oregon are the ones that are enforced. I don't think any woman in this state should ever worry about abortion, and that would be my goal in this office.
So you would fight against a federal administration, say if a Republican were to win the White House and the Republicans would win the Congress, U.S. Congress, and maybe implement a federal ban. You would fight against them if they tried to institute a federal ban.
Absolutely, and the argument would be that Oregon laws should remain supreme versus a federal national abortion ban. And that would set up, like I said, pretty stark division lines between the parties and how that will play out in the courts. But that's the role that I would take in that. It's also important to note that even with a Democratic president, we've had to have our current Attorney General to fight for our rights in this state and join with Washington State to make sure that access to mifepristone was continuing within the entire country. And so those are other important things that you have to be front and center on in this role.
How about the environment? How can you defend the environment and stand up for the environment, which is obviously another issue that's very important to Oregonians?
Yeah, I think about it in two ways. One, think about it in a larger context. So the current Attorney General was very successful against Monsanto, and you think about like the forever pesticides that are in our community. She was able to go in, hold them accountable, and bring money into the state to mitigate the harm to our environment. And the reason that's so darn important is when I was in the legislature, if that didn't happen, our taxpayer dollars goes to pay for that harm that was caused. So think about it in a really large context, holding polluters accountable. Then there's the one-on-one context within our communities, keeping our water, our air, and just our environment clean and safe. And so more of smaller things as well that you're really working and taking on in this role. But we're endorsed by the leading environmental advocacy group here in Oregon, and that's something I want to continue the work and expand it as well.
Almost daily, we receive information about a new scam or fraud that is trying to take advantage of Oregonians, oftentimes older people. What will you do as Attorney General to go after scammers?
Yeah, this is a great question because if you're out in the community and you're talking about the Attorney General's office, the Department of Justice, a lot of people think that criminal justice is everything you do. In fact, that's probably only 10% of the total responsibility of the Department of Justice. So in this sense, a really big portfolio and a critically important work is how do you keep seniors and how do you keep consumers safe? How do you advocate on their behalf? And it's not just scam artists. It is scam. The fly-by-night scams that come in and out of our communities, they come into our fairgrounds, take advantage of people, low-income Oregonians. You think about predatory lending, lemon cars. There's a whole host of issues in that space where the Attorney General really needs to look out for all Oregonians. The work that I would like to do is on that frontline area, really expand the work of our Civil Enforcement Division so that when Oregonians, they get taken advantage of, they should think, hey, if I can't get help in my own community, I should call the Attorney General's office. And that's the mentality, that's the long-term vision that I want to have for consumer protection in Oregon.
We need more of certain jobs that fall in the legal realm. I think public defenders, I know that's been something that has been discussed at the state legislature as well. Law enforcement officers as well. Ultimately, I know the Attorney General can't just snap your finger and create more public defenders, but how can the state address this problem and what role can you play in that?
Yeah, and I think let's talk about the gravity of the problem first. Public defenders is probably one of our bigger legal challenges we have in the state, and it's on both ends. One, it's community safety, right? And then it is also in terms of making sure people have someone to represent them and uphold their constitutional rights. So it really pings on two different really important levels. In the state, over the past 4 to 6 years, we have more than doubled the public defender budget in the state. And is it sufficient? I think we're still trying to figure that out. We have a workforce recruitment and retention problem. You even have that in district attorney's offices. So if you're in Eastern Oregon, you're having a tough time getting folks into your office, keeping them there, which then causes also similar issues in terms of community safety. So what we really need to do is we've moved this public defense office out of the judicial department, and that's where it was previously. We've put it in the executive branch so it can have more direct, what I would say, enforcement, oversight by the governor. And then what we're really trying to do, there's a legislative work group working on this, the governor is working on this. In my role, I would like to keep the pressure on to keep moving the needle and really looking at, do we have the right caseload analysis? Do we have the right funding model informed? But we also have to look in terms of accountability and outcomes. So it's a very big conversation. I think we're making traction, but we're not there yet.
A lot of what we've talked about, you've been able to sort of harken back to your experience in the state legislature. How ultimately do you think that can help you as Attorney General, understanding the legislature, having such a important role in the state legislature for the last several years?
Yeah, in my time in the legislature, I really have this belief that we can solve our community challenges, our state's challenges better when we work together. And we really proved that when I was in the Speaker's office in that role, where we had Democrats and Republicans equally working together to solve and create one of the biggest housing reform packages. We did the exact same thing with the criminal justice reform package. A lot of that comes from my parents. I mentioned to you this earlier. My dad is a Republican, my mother's a member of the Green Party. They often cared about the same things. They just wanted to do it in very different ways. Taking that philosophy from the legislature, doing the same thing at the Department of Justice, those tools to then be able to be a partner in solving some of these problems, I think will be incredibly valuable. Also very looking forward to it. The unique thing that most people don't know when you serve as a Speaker of the House, you are also managing a branch of government. So a budget of more than $400 million, 400 individuals. So that's a skill that also directly translate into managing a large agency in that spot.
Last thing I'll ask is, we have a Democratic governor. We have a Democratic-led legislature. If a Democrat like you gets elected to Attorney General, I know we currently have a Democrat there, would you be willing to hold people in your own party accountable and maybe sometimes go against your Democratic colleagues?
I have a track record in the legislature of holding people accountable. I've sat across the table and asked for my own member of my own party that I believe they need to step down. I have a track record in the legislation that I've brought that isn't beholden to one party or the other. So I think people can feel very confident in that aspect. I think when you combine that with the necessity of having someone that has the same values as the state when it comes to reproductive health rights, when it comes to our environment, when it comes to our gun violence prevention, the combination of those two things, I'm really excited to serve in this role.
Well, we're excited to have you in and excited to continue this conversation. Thanks so much for coming to our studio.
Thank you very much.